Okay, let's dive into this because, wow, you sent over some truly mind-bending material this week.
Oh, yeah.
Especially this story about AI potentially talking to dolphins. I mean, it sounds like pure science fiction.
It really does, doesn't it? The kind of thing you read about, not something actually happening.
Exactly. But the idea is that one day, maybe, we could actually understand dolphins.
Yeah.
Communicate with them in the ocean using their own sounds. Squeaks, clicks, whistles.
The key part, the really wild part, is the AI. That AI is learning to understand the patterns.
Right. And potentially even sort of talk back.
Mm-hmm. It's not just fantasy, this Dolphin Gemma project. It's real. Google's working on it.
And they're partnering with actual dolphin researchers, people with nearly 40 years of data. That's incredible.
Bahamas, the Wild Dolphin Project, that long-term data is crucial, I think. It gives it real credibility.
It does,
Yeah.
because you look at the sources, and this isn't just guesswork. It's built on decades of watching dolphins, in their natural environment.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Meticulous observation.
So you know how dolphins make all these complex noises, clicks, whistles, these burst pulses?
A whole symphony of sounds.
For decades, scientists have been trying to figure out, are these just random? Or is there, a language there?
Mm-hmm.
Something with structure, with meaning?
And it's clear you can't just feed recordings into Google Translate, right?
Not at all. It's way more nuanced. It's incredibly fast, for one.
Super high-pitched, too.
And it exists in this 3D underwater world, which is hard to even imagine.
That spatial element is key. Sound is their world, their way of seeing, almost.
Plus, they have those signature whistles, right? Like individual names.
Exactly, which already tells you something about their social complexity. They recognize each other, call out to each other.
So Google comes in and says, okay, let's use AI for what it's good at, pattern recognition.
Makes sense. That's where AI shines.
They developed this model, Dolphin Gemma, based on the same tech as their Gemini model.
Powerful stuff.
And they trained it on this massive data set of wild dolphin sounds, the biggest ever collected, apparently.
It's from that Wild Dolphin Project, right? The Bahamas group.
Yeah, since the 1980s. Divers recording sounds, noting down what the dolphins were doing.
Context is everything.
Exactly. Like, were they reuniting, chasing prey, flirting, even?
So you link the sound to the behavior, a huge database of, well, dolphin life.
And now AI can sift through that in ways humans just couldn't before.
Yeah.
It's looking for those hidden patterns, maybe unlocking a language we couldn't perceive.
It really speaks to the power of AI for these huge, complex biological data sets, doesn't it? 40 years of human work gives the foundation.
But the AI can see connections maybe we missed, the sheer volume, the subtleties.
Patterns hidden in the noise, potentially.
Okay, so how does it actually work, this Dolphin Gemma? It uses something called a sound stream.
A sound stream.
Think of it like the AI breaking down the dolphin noises into smaller bits, recognizable units, like notes and rhythms of music, maybe.
Analyzing the structure.
Yeah, and it learns which sounds tend to follow others, a bit like ChatGPT predicting the next word when you type.
Oh, okay. That makes sense. Probability based on sequences.
But instead of words, it's whistles, squawks, buzzes, all those dolphin sounds.
Right.
And here's the really amazing part. It can now generate new sounds. Sounds that seem to fit the patterns they've observed.
Whoa, okay. So it's not just listening, it's composing.
Kind of. It's not fluent dolphin, not yet anyway. But it seems to be capturing the underlying structure, the groove, the grammar, the musicality, the rhythm, the flow of how they talk.
That generation part is huge. It suggests it's not just cataloging sounds, but understanding the rules, maybe, the grammar of their communication.
Yeah, it's more than just mimicking. It's about figuring out the sequence, what sound is likely to come next in a conversation.
That's a big leap.
Man, the big goal here, the ultimate aim, if we can understand them, maybe we can talk back.
The holy grail, right? Interspecies communication.
That's where this other system comes in.
Yeah.
Chat. Citation hearing augmentation telemetry system.
Catchy name. Chat.
Basically, it's a wearable underwater computer hooked up to a Pixel phone. And it lets scientists try to build a shared vocabulary. They associate made-up whistles with things dolphins like.
Like what? Fish.
Well, in the examples, they use things like floating seaweed or place scarves, things dolphins interact with.
Ah, objects. Tangible things.
So the researcher plays a specific whistle, then gives the dolphin the scarf. Repeat that a few times.
Conditioning, basically. Pavlov's dolphins.
Sort of. But then, get this, sometimes The dolphins start using that same whistle back at the researchers.
No way, really?
Yeah, like they're asking for the scarf, using the word the researchers taught them.
That's a huge shift from just listening to actually trying to build that shared meaning.
And the dolphins reciprocating.
Yeah.
That shows they get the connection. Sound equals object.
So imagine scaling that up. A whole set of whistles for different objects, maybe even concepts eventually.
That's real two-way communication right there.
Wow.
And Dolphin Gemma, the AI, could help speed this up because it can predict dolphin sounds.
So it could help the chat system respond faster or more appropriately.
Maybe. Reinforce the meaning more effectively. Get closer to something like a real conversation.
Makes sense. Reduce the lag time, make the interaction more fluid.
And the tech itself is getting more accessible. The next version is meant to run on a Google Pixel 9.
Just a phone and a waterproof headset.
Yeah. Giving researchers that AI power right there in the water, analyzing mimicry in real time.
That's a game changer. Less bulky gear, more direct interaction potential.
Definitely lowers the barrier to entry for this kind of research.
And makes it more feasible for scientists studying different species all over the world, perhaps.
And speaking of that, Google says they plan to open source Dolphin Gemma this summer.
Oh, that's big. Really big.
Means researchers studying whales or other dolphins or, well, any animal that makes sounds could potentially use it.
Train it on their own data, even if the sounds are totally distant. The AI framework for pattern recognition.
And generation and interaction.
Yeah.
That could be adapted.
That really opens things up. AI as a tool to understand a whole range of species.
We might not be having, deep philosophical chats with Flipper anytime soon.
Right, not next week, no.
But asking a dolphin, want the seaweed or the scarf?
Yeah.
And getting a specific whistle back? That's apparently happening now, driven by AI.
That basic level of choice of expressing preference, that's already profound.
And the open source move just accelerates everything. Collaboration across different species research.
Yeah, sharing the advancements. That's key.
Now, all this AI stuff, it makes you wonder, right? Have dolphins been trying to tell us things all along?
People have certainly wondered that for a long time.
Way before Google, there was that scientist John Lilly back in the 60s.
Right, yes, John Lilly. A controversial figure, but definitely a pioneer in thinking about dolphin intelligence.
He was convinced they were intelligent, that they were trying to communicate. He even set up these environments for dolphins and humans to live together.
His methods raise eyebrows today, certainly.
Yeah, definitely questionable by modern standards. But the core idea that they weren't just making noise, he pushed that forward.
He absolutely challenged the mainstream view at the time, opened the door to considering their vocalizations as potentially much more complex.
And biologically, they do have impressive brains, don't they?
Absolutely. Larger than ours in some respects, especially areas linked to emotion.
And that extra lobe they have.
Right, an entire lobe we don't possess. Plus, their acoustic processing is just off the charts.
Echolocation, basically seeing with sound, creating detailed 3D images.
It shapes their whole perception of reality.
Which leads to this fascinating idea. What if their language isn't just sounds for things, but more like acoustic pictures?
That's a mind-bending thought, isn't it? Given their echolocation skills, it's plausible their sounds could convey spatial information, maybe even sensory experiences.
Like they're sharing sound images with each other.
It's possible, something far richer than just symbolic labels.
And that's where AI might have an edge, you see. Our human ears and brains. We're not built to process sound like they do.
We're very visually oriented.
But a neural network doesn't have those limitations.
Yeah.
Dolphin Gemma might be spotting patterns in the sound that we physically can't hear or comprehend.
Unlocking dimensions of their communication hidden from us.
Which, of course, brings up some pretty deep implications.
Huge ethical and philosophical questions, for sure.
I mean, imagine if we could really talk to them.
Yeah.
What would they even say?
Would they ask us about, I don't know, pollution? About fishing nets?
Or about their relatives in marine parks? It stops being just science and becomes something else.
Profound questions about consciousness, rights, our relationship with other intelligent life.
And think what we could learn from them. They've been adapting to the oceans for, 50 million years?
Their knowledge of that ecosystem, their complex societies, things we're only scratching the surface of.
Knowledge of the deep ocean it would take us centuries to get otherwise.
It's tapping into a completely different evolutionary path of intelligence.
Right.
A whole new perspective on the planet.
And it's not just dolphins, is it? this approach.
No, the potential is much broader. Think about elephants.
Right. They're low-frequency rumbles that travel for miles.
Or whales.
Yeah.
With those incredibly complex songs, changing over generations, spanning oceans.
Could AI help us tune into those conversations too?
There's already research happening, like Dr. Catherine Payne's work on elephant infrasound, or the Interspecies Internet project with apes and elephants.
So this fits into a bigger picture. AI is a potential bridge.
A bridge between different kinds of minds, different ways of experiencing the world, maybe even a universal translator, not just for human languages.
But for the languages of life itself.
Wow. It's a grand vision, but the tools are starting to emerge.
Okay, but let's manage expectations here. When does this go from, cool tech demos to actual conversations?
Yeah, the researchers themselves are very careful about this. True, deep, meaningful back and forth. That's likely decades away. At least.
So right now it's more like teaching a toddler, pointing at things, naming them.
That's a good analogy, establishing that basic shared vocabulary. This whistle means scarf. This whistle means seaweed.
Simple associations first.
Exactly, building blocks.
But you have to remember, right? Big breakthroughs often start small.
Absolutely. Think about the first telegraphs. Just dots and dashes.
Or the first phone call. Mr. Watson, come here.
Yeah.
Very simple.
The first text message was just Merry Christmas. Look where we are now.
So maybe 20 years from now, we'll look back at Chat and Dolphin Gemma as those first baby steps.
The primitive beginnings of realizing the ocean isn't just full of fish.
But full of other minds, other intelligences, maybe even other cultures.
It's a profound shift in perspective. What else could be encoded in animal vocalizations beyond just symbols? If dolphins use acoustic pictures, what sensory worlds are other species sharing?
And could AI help us perceive those worlds? That's something to think about. So the main takeaway here, I think, is that AI is giving us this completely new window, a way to understand and maybe, just maybe, communicate with other species.
Starting with dolphins, but the potential is vast.
Just let that sink in. The oceans teeming with life, potentially teeming with other intelligences, other ways of knowing the world.
And we might just be on the verge of being able to listen in, properly listen in for the first time.
It's not science fiction anymore. It's a real deep dive into an incredible unfolding possibility.